Hey, welcome back to I Did Not Know That, Classic TV Edition. Why don't you hit that like button and subscribe?
I'll think about it.
That's all I ask.
Coming up on this episode of I Did Not Know That.
And I go like this. I miss her by that much. She said, "He hit me! He hit me! I hate him!"
The Mary Tyler Moore Show had one of the strongest cast of characters of any show that ever aired on television. Of course, Mary Tyler Moore was already well known as Laura Petrie, wife of Rob Petrie on The Dick Van Dyke Show, before her own series even aired. And the rest of the cast also had much experience in film and TV. Two of those were Cloris Leachman, who played Phyllis Lindstrom on the show, and Gavin MacLeod, who played Murray Slaughter. They both had a long acting history, especially on TV. Leachman appeared on programs such as Wanted, Dead or Alive with Steve McQueen.
I got what I want right here.
The Twilight Zone, Alfred Hitchcock, and many more. MacLeod appeared on programs such as The Untouchables, The Dick Van Dyke Show, and was a regular on McHale's Navy. I recently was reading an article about the cast of The Mary Tyler Moore Show when I came across something that surprised me a bit. It had a short mention that Leachman originally said she had reservations about working with MacLeod, only saying that at first she was uncomfortable around him. It didn't go into any more detail. I didn't think it was fair to the readers, MacLeod, or Leachman to drop in something like that and then not to explain why Leachman would feel that way. What surprised me is that Gavin MacLeod had always come across as such a gentle soul and seemed like one of the nicest guys you'd ever want to meet. I couldn't imagine him making someone feel that way. I did a bit more searching and came across a quote from her book Cloris from 2009 where she claimed that the reason she'd at first felt uncomfortable was that Gavin often played the heavy or villains in shows, and she couldn't see how that was going to work in a comedy show. I thought this was very odd and didn't make a lot of sense. While MacLeod certainly had played a lot of heavies, his resume was full of comedies. She'd also played villains. I'd guess Asner, who often played bad guys before the Mary Tyler Moore Show, had them all beat. Was she uncomfortable with him? Like I mentioned, MacLeod had already been a regular in the comedy show McHale's Navy, and he could be seen on numerous comedy programs like The Munsters, Gomer Pyle, Hogan's Heroes, and many more. Aside from that, she certainly was aware that actors are often nothing like the characters they play. I wasn't buying it. Then I came across a 2017 video of Gavin MacLeod addressing this story, and it was pretty detailed and enlightening. It was very different than what Leachman had stated. As you will be able to see, it still bothered and upset him to that day. I want to thank Peter from Midship Cinema, who was kind enough to let me use some of that interview, and I will post a link to the full clip below. MacLeod wanted to talk at his favorite restaurant, so there's some typical and sometimes loud restaurant sounds in the background. MacLeod first worked with Leachman in an episode called The $87 Bride in a 1967 TV series called The Road West. They had a scene together where he had to pretend to hit her.
It's in the 60s. Paul Henry had seen The Connection, the play I did with Robert Blake, and he called me to do a play, a character on our show at Universal called The Road West. Well, I was the guy that owned this saloon. Cloris was my girlfriend and the lead singer. She runs away with Lou Antonio. I find out about it, and I have to go get her. This is the first day of shooting. I was so enamored of her as an actress, I was a little nervous. She's there with him. I come out of this big white horse, jump off, and said, "What are you doing? You sing for me." And she gets frightened. I said, "Sing. Beautiful dreamer." Because it didn't cost anything to use that song. And I go like this. I miss her by that much. She said, "He hit me! He hit me, I hate it.
Clearly, this is a very different story than Leachman had told.
The next day we had to do a love scene. I was really shocked. And I went over to my wife that night with my wife. I said, I don't know what to do. I have to hold her in my arms. You have a love scene the next day. She hates me. She said, well, tell her. I said, tell her what? He said, tell her what you really think. Well, I didn't sleep much that night. And I said, I got to tell you something. I hardly sleep last night. Well, what's the matter? I was so afraid of hurting you yesterday, and you were screaming and yelling, and I didn't miss you by a lot. She said, I know, but you brought something up in my mind. So anyway, we got through the whole show. Now you cut years later. We're doing the Mary Tyler Moore Show in 1970.
Oh, morning, Murray. Murray, I'd like you to meet my new assistant, Phyllis Lindstrom. This is Murray Slaughter.
How do you do, Murray?
I'd love you to come over for dinner.
All in this one room. With Cloris, I had never any scenes with Cloris. We were in the newsroom. She was in Mary's apartment. There were 2 seats left next to me. She said, I'm not going to sit next to him. She says, he hit me when we did that show that time. Gavin MacLeod is so mean. That's what she said. I said, oh, she's never going to let go of this.
As I'm sure you can tell, this incident was terribly upsetting for MacLeod.
What do I do? What do I do? Do I just keep taking it? Do I just keep taking it, or do I draw the line someplace?
So we got through the series. We never had many scenes together. Years later, we're doing The Love Boat. And we get Cloris to come with Andy Griffith. So I said, how are things going? I went to work. He said, she's driving me crazy. I said, join the club. I said, but everybody's looking at her, Andy. They're not looking at you.
So how do you reconcile these two very different stories? I think one thing that has to be taken into consideration is you have two very different personalities here. While MacLeod is reserved and easygoing, Leachman was known for doing and saying outlandish things, and she had an over-the-top personality. At times she said and did things that were shocking and got a few people upset. In 1976, she got in a whole lot of trouble when she made some explosive comments about overweight people. She said that fat people were a danger to the environment and proposed that there should be fat catchers, and they should throw nets over them and take them to a place to make them slim down. I can't stand fat bodies, she said. They're advertising their unhappiness. You might be surprised, but this did not go over well with some people, even way back in the 1970s. So what are we to make of all this? No one knows exactly what happened aside from Leachman and MacLeod, and they're both gone now. But apparently they were able to reach some sort of truce. MacLeod said he would even give her rides home after working on the Mary Tyler Moore Show, and he said some other nice things about her.
I lived in the Palisades, and she lived there. I used to drive her home from the Mary Tyler Moore Show on occasion, just to help her out. She's terrific. She's just terrific, and she's one of the finest actresses I think we have today. She can do anything, and she'll do anything. She's fabulous.
The painful part is, it was clear that even in 2017, the two incidents still seem to bother Gavin MacLeod almost 50 years later. I think that sometimes we forget that these are real people that we see on TV and movies. Again, to view the entire interview, click on the link below. Hey, thanks so much for taking the time to watch. See you soon.
I never knew any of that.
Ba-da-da.